Joe Burrow last night built onto a legacy that is just going to be incredible. I think he obviously had a broken rib. I can say that on this show. I couldn't officially say it on the Megacast. He played in a second half with a broken rib where it's very difficult to breathe. He played in a second half with a broken rib where it's very hard to open it up. And he willed his team to a national championship in their home state, and everybody lost their absolute mind. I loved it. Trevor Lawrence walked off the field underneath a purple and yellow confetti that I would assume is going to drive him to come back even better. Trevor Lawrence has never lost in college, so that means he has just a moment of motivation there while walking into that locker room. It looks like he is going to have a revenge tour, revenge body somehow next year, and I can't wait for that. Happy to hear he's going to come back and play football, though. I mean, I think that is something that we could definitely lock in. There's been conversations of him not coming back and playing because he's definitely going to be the number one pick, which I think is still true, by the way, regardless of what happened last night, regardless of the overthrows that he had, which was 12 or 13 of them last night. I think he was pressing a little bit because the LSU defense was so good, but I think he has to come back next year, and he's going to come back even better, which is good for college football. Joe Burrow, though. Dan Orlovsky and I, we walked home from the stadium with Adam and me, and we ran into the Chrisley family. Shout out to the Chrisley family, by the way. The littlest one, which I feel like I've watched growing up in the Chrisley Knows Best show. I guess he watches our stuff sometimes, so big fan of that kid. Also, the son, big fan of them. Shout out to the Chrisleys. I'm one of their biggest fans that exists just because Todd is electrifying. But as we were walking home, the conversation with LSU fans started to happen about how good Joe Burrow is. And I said, well, obviously he's going to go to Cincinnati. I said it there. And Dan Orlovsky is Dan Orlovsky, obviously. And I don't know if Dan was just trying to prod these drunk whites wearing LSU clothes. But he said somebody's going to go get him. Dan thinks there's a chance after that performance and how Joe has done all year that somebody is going to want to move and get up there. Ooh. And if Cincinnati lets that happen, that would be the most Cincinnati Bengal thing of all time. Well, hello there. Utilize the promo code PAYTHEBILLS and get $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Now, back to the magic. That guy has everything you need to be a franchise quarterback. He can throw the ball into a bucket. He proved that last night with Chase. I mean, he dropped balls right into a bucket. He has the most touchdowns in FBS history, and he played in the SEC. It wasn't like he was playing in the old Pac-12 or whatever, wherever there was just tempo throw, like Colt Brennan was in Hawaii or whatever. He played in the SEC, and he has the most touchdown passes in the history of college football. He has the highest completion percentage in the history of college football. He has this moxie and grit about him where we think he played through an entire broken rib, and he has this confidence about him and swagger that I think is maybe my favorite thing. No, he's smoking cigars and celebrating life afterwards. But look at that. It just came straight out of a movie. He just nodded his head with a cigar thing. But he has the humility. He has gratitude. He has every single character trait you could possibly want for a guy to be your franchise quarterback, let alone the thought that he had to sit on the bench and bet on himself and transfer and struggle, then do very well. So if Cincinnati lets that get out of their franchise, which until Dan mentioned it on the street last night to a very drunk white named Josh, I didn't even fathom it. Joe Burrow is going to be a superstar NFL quarterback. Superstar. In the fourth quarter there, after he led the comeback and his ribs are broken or whatever, the LSU crowd does this thing, I guess, where everybody the neck, right? They started playing that neck song. And you saw Ryan Clark doing it and Swagoo doing it. What they didn't show on the cast that they showed on the Jumbotron was Joe Burrow, like classic, just with his head like doing like this thing. And as soon as his face was shown there, eruption. I mean, it was absolute eruption. And when we were walking around in the pregame, he had this look on his face as if he knew everything that was just about to happen. There's just like, he has this confidence about him, yet humility. And it's just, he has everything you could buy. And he's a lot faster, I think, than I even imagined after seeing him in person in that second quarter drive at the end of the half there, where he was getting out of the pocket and running a lot. I was like, damn, he's a lot faster than I thought he was. You factor that in with the winning trait that he has, and not only in basketball and everything that he does, this guy is a lock for the NFL, and I'll be interested to see if there's people making moves to try to get up there, because this is a guy you want on your team.